Hi, my name is Kasia Gondek, and I will talk to you about a new species of Galapagos Island tortoise that has been discovered called Chelanoidus donfastoi espinove. Giant Galapagos tortoises are known for their relatively large size and their upper and lower hard shell called a carapace that protects them from predators. It is made from a protein called keratin. And disregarding predation, hunting, giant tortoises have a long lifespan of up to 150 years and can exceed 5 feet in diameter and reach weights of around 550 pounds. They're herbivores that feed on grass, cacti, and leaves. The Chelanoidus porteri species that inhabits Santa Cruz Island is from two regions, the Serra Fatal and Reserva region. That's demonstrated by this image here. As you can see, the Reserva population of giant tortoise is on the western side and the Serra Fatal population is on the eastern side. They're separated by a gray region which represents an agricultural zone. The early classification of Galapagos Island tortoises was done in the early 1900s without the tools of genetic analysis. And so they were based primarily on morphology and island of origin. And the giant tortoises are classified in phylum Chordata, subphylum Vertebrata, class Reptila, order Chelanoidus. And in general, Galapagos Islands are home to at least 11 species of giant tortoise, and Santa Cruz Island itself is home to now 2 species of those giant tortoises. A new study called Description of a New Galapagos Giant Tortoise Species from Serra Fatal on Santa Cruz Island was published in October of this year. It found compelling molecular evidence that pointed to multiple independent evolutionary lineages of giant tortoises on the island. Given that the Reserva and Serra Fatal populations were actually 2 evolutionary and spatially distinct lineages, called for a reclassification of the species. Therefore, researchers analyzed fossil evidence and DNA samples from known and living species to determine the phylogenies of the Galapagos Island tortoise living on Santa Cruz Island. And new mitochondrial DNA and nuclear microsatellite genetic data further supported the reclassification of the C. porteri species. And here's the result of that phylogenetic analysis. And you can see that the Santa Cruz Serra Fatal species population is separate and genetically distinct from the Santa Cruz Island La Reserva population. So then researchers needed to find out which species, the Serra Fatal or the La Reserva, represented the original C. porteri description that was created in the early 1900s. They analyzed the museum fossils and they cropped them with their genetic data that they had available to them, and they found that the museum specimens available represented both Reserva and Serra Fatal populations. So therefore, the Chelanoidus porteri species description was actually describing 2 species instead of 1, which creates a problem in taxonomy. So the researchers continued a further hunt for a new name. They looked further into other research studies done on Santa Cruz Island Galapagos tortoises, giant tortoises, and they also looked at the historical classifications and taxonomy of those tortoises, and they found that most of them studied the Reserva population since they were larger in number. So therefore, they decided that the Chelanoidus porteri species would represent the Reserva population, and the Serra Fatal population would become the new species designation Chelanoidus donfastoi. This reclassification has implications on conservation efforts given that giant tortoises of Galapagos Islands are endangered anyway. There are only 250 living Don Festoy tortoises, about 2,000 to 4,000 C. porteri tortoises. There are a number of foundations and organizations that support research and conservation efforts, and those are listed here. And I invite you to visit those websites and find out a little bit more about these wonderful tortoises.